What's going on, everybody? This is Roaming Prepper, and thank you for joining me today. I originally made a video for this subject, and I wound up redoing it entirely because there's so many rabbit trails you can go on that it got lost. The first version just went off the rails. So, doing this one, hopefully I'll keep it between the buoys. So today's topic, it happened at the worst possible time. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm using the incident in Turkey, a category or a magnitude, nearly magnitude 8 earthquake, hit the cities around the Mediterranean, the Greece-Turkey area, and it was absolutely devastating. Based on some of the video, to me it looks biblical. It was that bad. Whole buildings just vaporized. It's tragic. Anyway, as a guy like myself, I'm traveling, I'm overseas, and that happens. Well, hell, how do you prepare for something like that? And part of the roaming prepper, the whole concept is I'm a guy who travels, I'm on the road either for personal, for family, or for business. Now what? What do you do when that happens? So I'm going to share some of my thoughts. I'll be right back, and we'll talk more about what I think you could do and what I think could have been done for those who were traveling in that area. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me again. As always, don't forget, if you have any comments, you could put them in the chat in the premiere, or you can throw them in the comments below. This week, actually, it is the 7th of February of 2023. As you can hear, I'm still sick. Many of you know I have, balloon flu, the spirona, whatever the hell, I have something. And it's basically kicked my butt this week. I'm trying to put content, but a lot of it is pre-recorded because I can edit out my coughing and sneezing. In any case, thank you for your patience on that, and I appreciate your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you feel like sharing, that is always appreciated as well. So, the whole topic of this video, you're traveling and a disaster strikes. I'm using this terrible incident in Turkey and in that region as an example of such a disaster. It could be a tsunami. I've seen tourists in tsunamis. Here in the States, we saw people coming up from Florida on winter break and wind up getting caught in a blizzard, but they had summer clothes, they had like beach clothes, and it suddenly went to 4 degrees outside. And I love that, Tori. Now what? How do you deal with that kind of situation? Okay, so you're traveling. Here's your scenario. You're traveling, you're out on a business trip, and something like this happens. You're in a hotel. Assuming the hotel doesn't straight up drop on you, in which case, all your worries in this world are ended. And if you're a person of faith who believes in Christ or any other form of entity, I promise you, you will probably meet that person because you won't be here. But you don't. Hotel gets messed up. You're in your room, though, shaken, still alive. Now what? Well, I want to back up. When you make these kind of trips, in the back of your mind, whether you're on a Disney cruise or whether you're on a personal vacation or a business trip or you're just sightseeing, disasters, riots, fires, incidents, they can and will happen. You need to be prepared for that, and you need to understand how that can affect your options. And the big thing here is options, and I'll come back to that later. So before you even make the trip, one, get to know your area. Now, obviously, you're on a cruise ship, you're stuck on the ship. But if you're going to get off, disembark in Cancun, or you're going to fly to Jamaica, or fly to Puerto Rico, or fly to wherever, go to Austria, get to know the area. Print out hard copy maps, print out sites you want to see. If you can arrange a guided tour, do that. Get to know the lay of the land before you ever show up. That's very important. Also, statedepartment.gov or state.gov has a website for traveling Americans. All it asks for is your name, your phone number, your address, where you're planning to visit, and the dates you plan to stay there. Now, why is that important? If you're in the country and the government collapses, right, and they're telling Americans, get your ass to the embassy, they're going to look at that list, and if you're not on there, they have no idea where you are right now. But if you at least took the time to do that, that security officer is going to say, hey, you know what? I have this Pete guy came in country on a business trip. He even emailed us and said, hey, this is my general itinerary. He's not here at the embassy. Let's call the other embassies or the other consulates and see if he showed up there. Get to know the area. Normally, if you're in a business trip like I am, I have local company contacts, I have local affiliates. I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to have a printed list of phone numbers, names, and emails, not only with me, but I'm going to leave a copy at home with my wife, and I will probably send one to my manager. So 3 points of contact: my bag and me, my wife or spouse, and a manager or coworker that is trusted. And in my case, corporate security will also know where I am. So you have multiple people who know where you are if you don't show. Once you arrive, before you get there, if you know the trip is coming and you may need a different currency, I would go to the bank where you are, go to Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whoever you use, and make a request at the teller to convert so much American money into whatever you need, for instance, euros. You fill out the form, you go home, they'll call you about 4 to 5 days later and say, hey, your currency has come in. What they do, they withdraw your money, they make an order, they get it, they charge you a single-digit percentage. Now, there are 2 reasons you do this. One, if you do it in an airport, you're going to pay 30%, not 8% on the transfer fee to go from US to euros or whatever the currency is. 2, when I show up at the new country, I'm not showing US dollars. I'm showing the local currency. Places in Europe, they won't know if I'm American, if I'm Italian, if I'm Saudi, if I'm Kuwaiti, if I'm Argentinian. They have no idea. I could pass as an Italian. They don't know. Showing dollars tips off that guy's an American, regardless of what my ethnicity is. But if I'm using the local currency and I look like a local and I got my little jacket, and people will be like, well, he's just some other schlep. And it's part of the gray man concept, but while traveling. So don't show the US dollars, don't show those greenbacks unless you have to. I check in with people. When I land, if I have a transfer or a layover, when I land at that layover and I'm going from gate A to gate B to get my second airplane, I text my wife, I email the boss. It's now out there on the server that I arrived and I'm going to my next flight. They now have a checkpoint of where my ass was. When I land, I do the same. I go, I get out of the terminal, I stop, use the restroom real quick, I send a quick text to the wife, maybe a text to my adult children, and then a text to the boss, hey, or an email. Email is great because it stays on the server for a while. Hey, I showed up, I'm at my destination, getting luggage and checking into the hotel. When I arrive at the hotel, I do it a 3rd time, just so everyone has a checkpoint. Transfer of aircraft, arrival, hotel. Now, something happens to me, they know I at least got that far. Also, if you're going to take a car service, ask the locals who live there that you're dealing with what car to take. I digress. Make sure you have those checkpoints. Make sure people know where you are. If you can, take a picture of the back of the cab you're going to go in, including the license plate. Let's say you've done all of the above. You have your money, you did your planning, you have your little maps, you got to the hotel, you checked in, you're sleeping, you did your meeting, you're having your dinner, you went to bed, right? Good business trip so far. And the incident happens. A tsunami, a flood, a riot, an earthquake, a pandemic, a terrorist attack. Whatever happens, now you're in the middle of it. Okay. What else? What else could we be doing? Well, in most flights, you have checked luggage and you have a carry-on. And depending on the airline, you can have a personal item, a carry-on, and checked luggage, or you have checked luggage and a carry-on. It kind of varies. So you have to be familiar with your airline. In most of mine, I check my big bag and I bring a carry-on. What do I have on my carry-on? Normally, iPad, a book, some basic meds, a small first aid kit, a flashlight, and I'll get to that. You want to stick extra pair of underwear, extra pair of socks, toothbrush, toothpaste in your bag. Okay, you can carry up to a 3-ounce bottle of certain fluids, for example, toothpaste or mouthwash, so that you can at least maintain your hygiene while you're out. You're at the hotel, you go to sleep. Remember that flashlight I told you to leave in your carry-on? I keep 2, one in my carry-on. Actually, I keep one in my pocket. I carry one in my carry-on and I carry a 3rd one in my briefcase, my check luggage. Okay, you have an earthquake, the magnitude of what happened in Turkey, you're not going to have power. I guarantee you, your power's done. You have a terrorist attack, you might not have power either. A sudden tsunami probably won't have power. You're going to be in a strange room, in a strange country, in a black box, in the dark, not knowing the language, and probably half asleep, not remembering the layout of your room. What you don't want to do is get up in a panic, try to run across your room, run into a wall, give yourself a concussion, and now you're bleeding on the ground, because now you've given yourself an injury that was completely unnecessary. When you go to bed, have your flashlight, and when I'm traveling, I keep a pair of boots, blue jeans, and a belt put through the jeans on the floor on my side of the bed wherever I'm sleeping, or whatever side I want it. Or if I don't have a preferred side, if it's a small bed, I'll put it on a chair near the bed. So if I gotta get up, I have that flashlight right to my nightstand, I pop it on, I get my bearings, I can go get pants on, and don't forget shoes, because you don't want to be running in a building that may have broken glass, might have things on fire on the ground, and you're running around in socks, or flip-flops are not much better. You want shoes, laceable shoes, not those stupid kicks the teenagers wear. Laceable shoes that you can run, you can move sideways, you can run backwards if you have to, and they're not going to come flying off. Because if you cut open your foot in the middle of an emergency, you've got a major freaking problem. And you're going to have an infection. So if the disaster doesn't kill you, an infection or blood loss will. You can't afford an injury in that kind of situation. So mental note, that's what you have by your side. So here's the scenario. I'm in bed, I'm asleep, I do the things I just said I do. Boom, something happens. I get up, middle of the night, I reach over, grab that flashlight, I pop it on, I get my bearings. Nobody's in the room. Something has obviously happened. I check my lights, lights don't turn on. There's been an incident. I'm sure I'm going to hear screaming out in the street. I'm going to feel the building shaking. I'm going to hear something. That's where you go into your OODA loop, your OODA loop, many of you may know. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. So let me explain how we execute that. I wake up, I orient myself. So first I observe, right? I'm going to observe what's in my vicinity. What the hell has just happened? If I'm in my room, I may not be able to tell. Even if there was an earthquake, unless my wall fell off, I'm going to be sitting there, the wall, everything's going to look weird, but I don't live there, so it's going to look weird anyway. What's going on? So the first thing I do, I observe and then I orient myself, and my first decision is to get dressed. Shoes on, socks on, laced, pants up with belt, jacket, shirt, and now I've got my backpack, which by the way had a very rudimentary emergency bag, right? First aid kit, remember first aid kit, flashlight, basic meds, change of underwear, change of socks, change of t-shirt, right? If they'll let you do it, you could put like a dirt mask to prevent debris from getting in your face like you would for sheetrocking in your bag. So anyway, there's your travel bag. You get up, boom. Now I start trying to look out the window. I go to the hallway and listen. Don't open the door, okay? You don't know what's out there. It could be fire, it could be poison, it could be terrorists, it could be a gang. Stop and listen. If you don't hear danger, crack the door, observe, and then see what's going on. Go back in your room. Yeah, you're probably wondering, really? I'm going to go back in the room? Yes, you're going to go back in the room, close the door, look out the window, get as much information from where you are as possible. Now, So you've observed and you've oriented yourself back in your room, and you've collected your gear, you collected your belongings. Now start to repack that carry-on bag, not for the convenience of travel to have a first aid kit for ouchies and your medicines, but also to make sure that you now have what you may need for an emergency. So anything in your check bag that you may need, an extra pair of jeans. If you have another pair of shoes, you may want to tie them onto the back of that backpack. Maybe you throw a poncho in there. Maybe you have, I always travel with an extra duffel bag flattened up, nothing in it, squished in the bottom of the bag. In case I buy souvenirs, I bring it back with me. Well, now I have extra carrying capacity that doesn't involve me toting a suitcase around. Repack my backpack and any other things I may need, so now I'm ready to go. Now, leave your room, lock your door behind you, take your key, your flashlight, your needed gear, and don't forget your IDs and any other credentials you may need, and cash. Then you go downstairs, meet with the concierge or the law enforcement, whoever's in the hotel, and try to find out what the hell's going on. Now I start executing. I start repacking my bags for what I think my situation now is. That may include having a paper map, which if you did your homework before your trip, you have a copy of the local city map in your bag or in your checked luggage. Pull that out, because that's going to get you to the embassy. And remember, you signed up with state.gov, or you emailed the embassy so they know you're in the country. Also, your company and your family know you're in the country. You see how this all ties together? Now you have to make a decision. What decision is that? Ladies and gentlemen, that's something I couldn't tell you, because we're not there. It could be a myriad of situations. If you take the fictional Pete out in his trip, there's an earthquake or some calamity. I've done my orientation, I've evaluated, I reset myself, I gained more information, I repacked, and I executed to move downstairs because I'm preparing to make my next choice. What have I done other than repack all my shit? I've given myself options. When I get downstairs, if I see a U.S. Embassy representative there, if I see the consulate car there, there's my option. There's my exit. I go downstairs and there's soldiers and rioters killing each other in the streets. Going in the street is suddenly not the best option, at least not out that front door. I have to find another way out, right? If I go downstairs and it's on fire, I'm going to have to go out a window on the second floor and probably jump off the balcony. That opens a whole nother can of worms. From that point on, you're going to have to make the best decision possible. But when you make that decision, think it through as best you can under the circumstances, knowing you're going to be tired, you're going to be disoriented, and you're probably going to be either nervous or pissed off or a combination thereof, and then execute on what you can. So, ladies and gentlemen, do the homework in advance so that you have options. This is the whole key. What happened in Turkey is absolutely heartbreaking. And for the locals who know the area and speak the language and see their families and friends getting killed, God, I can't even fathom the pain, because you don't even see that coming. It's not like a hurricane. It's just boom, and every people were gone. But imagine the travelers. That part of the world has a lot of tourism and a lot of business people going in and out. Guys like me. Are you planning for that? The next time you make that trip, the next time you schedule that Disney cruise, the next time you decide to go somewhere, think about it. You guys get what I'm saying? Plan for that kind of stuff. Because remember, we spend so much time on the road, commuting, in our office, at work. At least 10 hours a day, most of us are not anywhere near our home. Why would it stand to reason that a disaster will only hit when we're at home with all our preps? It's not realistic. It can happen when we're far away from who we know and what we need. So improvise, stay on topic, and stay on top of what's going on. And remember, the more homework you do, the more planning you do, the less effed up you're going to be if something happens. No guarantees, guys. No guarantees in love and war. But I hope this helped you and gave you some clarity as to things you need to think about if you go overseas, especially in 2023, 2024. We are not out of this weirdness yet. The more I read about it, the more I swear we're right smack on the front end of the fourth turning of this generation. So let's get through it in one piece, okay? God bless, Godspeed. I will see you all on the next video.